In this video, I want to talk about skip reading. And this is the strategy that you're going to use this term to work through the material that we give you. Skip reading is simply deciding to skip certain parts of the book to get through the book faster. And it's a valuable strategy because sometimes you realize that the author of a book is working the material in such a way that it's formulaic, or perhaps there's a guiding principle or theme in the book, and many other parts of the book are simply illustrating this or substantiating it or exemplifying it or whatever, giving examples. And you realize that if you needed to move through the material faster, you could skip all of those and just read the core presentation of the idea. Now, there is a sense where doing effective skip reading means that you have to be comfortable with, at times, looking at books and movies and other texts as tools to help you with your lifelong learning. And because there's simply too much information out there and not enough time in the day, or perhaps will or energy or concentration, we are going to have to filter what materials we engage in and to what extent we engage in those materials we decide to bring into our lives. There is a notion out there that, a good book or a good movie or whatnot needs to be engaged with all the way through. You need to finish it out because something might happen at the end that will change the way you remember or think about this text. And yes, that's a possibility, but unfortunately, again, because of time and limited resources, there are times, and I would say many times, when you really are going to have to discipline yourself and say, when I come to this book, when I come to this article, when I come to this webpage, I'm going to spend 20 minutes here, or 15, or an hour, or perhaps you might look at it in terms of the material itself and say, I'm going to read half of this book. And what half am I going to read? When you put them together, maybe it's 17 chapters and you're going to read 10 of them. And then you get to pick the chapters you read, knowing that at the end, you're going to miss out on some things in the book. And you'll never be able to tell people that you read the whole material. That's just being honest with the way you engage the book. But instead of the book taking you 4 hours to read, it took you 1.5. And you maybe lost 30 to 40% of it in terms of the experience, but in terms of understanding the idea or the thesis of the book, maybe you lost only 25%. You got like 70 to 75% of what you were supposed to get in the first place. So it's a calculus because time is limited. This is not talking about the reading or the watching or the listening that we do when we can relax and we're using it to calm ourselves or to enjoy the experience, because this is sort of our quiet entertainment or our own time. To skip read is to realize that whatever material you have needs to be harvested, needs to be viewed as a tool to the larger end, and you have to balance energy and concentration and time to make it through the whole distance. So this one part of the experience cannot take more than it should. And as far as how it operates as a tool and as a part of the whole, maybe reading only a third of that book is really the way that you should go. And I keep on talking about books, but it's good to remember that. Let me say two things here. It's good to remember that books are just one example of writing in the broader concept, where writing being a document of something somehow, a text that can be documented, that can be copied, can be accessed by a mass audience, that can be replayed. All right. So that is that's what it means to be a text, and that's a movie, a song, a website, a documentary, pamphlets, newspapers, articles, comic books, magazines, regular books, fiction books, nonfiction books. All of these are text, and as you are using text in your life to teach you, which is what Ravenburn is really all about. It's getting you to see this and model it and do it and become and to develop habits of this, because this is how your lifelong education is going to be directed. You are not going to be able to have teachers or mentors with you as you move through life. You're going to have to be able to realize that a good book, a good movie, a good documentary, or a good grouping of them, a constellation of them about a certain topic can really do a great thing for you concerning your understanding of genetics or economics or psychology or religion. So finding the right material, and more than just one piece, the right materials, text to help you with this is key. And then once you have your pile, you need to realize that this is not there with you so that you can enjoy the experience, although I hope there's part of that, the reward, right? Create, maintain, reward interest. I hope that's there for you, but really that material is there. You have to negotiate with it. You have to control it. Don't let it control you. You control it in terms of slicing it up and using parts instead of the whole, because time is limited and energy and concentration. And then the second thing I think is really good to remember, first being that text and books are tools in your education, right? To offset that a little bit, it's good to remember the metaphor of a friendship as you try to understand books. If you treat books like you treat friends or like you treat people, relationships, you maybe get a better understanding of this. There are some people in your life that you have a very close relationship, a very long-term relationship with, and corresponding to that are books that come into your life that you really should read 3 or 4 times. You should read when you're young and when you're old. And then there are other people in your life that you are close to for a time. Maybe it's a school friend, and you know that while you have this class together or this year together at a certain school or whatnot, time together, it's going to end, but right now you can develop this friendship. And there are certain books that come into your life that are kind of like that as well. And they merit a little, they merit time that you give them, but not as much as those deeper, more solid relationships. And then we all have friends in our lives that we see them once or twice a week. We have a history with them, but we don't really have a constant presence with them. And some books are like that too. You get to know them a little bit. You read them once, you remember them. Every now and then you hear their titles, and you can think about what you learned. Or movies are kind of like that. You watch it once, and you got the basic idea. You move on. And sometimes you have people in your life that are just nice acquaintances. You've met them really quickly once, and you know who they are, but you don't really know who they are. But there's this sense that at least you recognize the name and what they're kind of about. And many books in my life and movies and songs are like that as well. I've not actually read, that book or this book or seen that movie, but I've heard about it, and I can recognize when it's being used correctly in a conversation and whatnot. So these are the acquaintance level, right? Then, of course, we have the stranger level. Think of all the people in this world that you will never meet, ever. So why do you feel bad about passing someone on the sidewalk and letting them slide on by? There's so many people that you're not going to meet. What's one more? Be as friendly and as kind as you can to people and develop the relationships that are right for you in the time. But we all realize it's a mistake to try to have deep friendships with absolutely everyone we meet. And it's also a mistake to think that you are going to be able to know and even be mildly acquainted with everyone in this world. That's ridiculous. So if, I have read a lot, I've watched a lot, I'm highly literate in that way, but if I had a dollar, forget that, if I had a penny for every book and movie and magazine article and song that I have never heard, I would be a billionaire. So when a book comes into your life and you realize, I don't need to read this book. I'm not even going to get it started. I know people are reading it. It's not for me right now because I don't have time. I'm going to use something else. And you should not feel guilty about that. It's the same way with people. So it's good. It's good to be able to understand that the relationship you have with texts is complicated. because it's layered and there are many aspects to it. But when you recognize the goal of certain texts being that they have to play a part in your lifelong education, and they are there to give you insight, maybe on a nonfiction topic, or even if it is a work of literature, and you realize you're only going to get through half of it, that still can do something towards making you a rounded thinker, a better communicator, to make you have more empathetic partnerships with the people around you, and also to help you with your lifelong learning. So don't get discouraged about skip reading. Don't fail to use it. And in the assignments for this term, we'll tell you exactly what to skip and why.